Welcome back, Stas23 here, back again with some knife therapy, and today I'm going to give you my 20 favorite cardboard destroyers. What that just means is these are excellent slicers. Pretty much all of them are 20 thousandths and under. A lot of them are a good bit under 20 thousandths, and I'll tell you why I picked each one, and I tried to pick ones that you can currently buy. There's a couple, but I have alternatives that are just not in stock at the moment. So let's get started so this doesn't take a whole long time. Starting out at number 20, we have the Liong Mah KUF EDC. This one is that far down the list, mainly because it's an expensive knife for what it is. Comes in at 300 bucks. It's about 16 thousandths behind the edge. You have a nice full flat ground blade, and you don't have no crazy belly there, so it goes through cardboard really nicely. And another reason why it's further down the list is because it's a pretty sharp blade, so not going to be my first one to grab, but it is an excellent slicer. Number 19, we're going to go with the Spyderco Chaparral. This is an just astonishing slicer, mainly because it has super thin stock, the thinnest stock of all the knives on this list. This stock comes in at 0.078, and it comes in at 20 thousandths behind the edge. So even though it's 20 thousandths, it still slices really good because of that super thin blade stock. It passes through material very nicely, but once again, you have a very sharp blade here of CTS XHP. This is the Bird's Eye Maple one. Excellent gentleman's carry knife, lightweight EDC knife as well. Number 18, we have the Artisan Cutlery Small Centauri. This is a Ray Laconico design. You can see his name right there. And this one has a lot going for it. You can also get it in a larger version. If this was a larger version, it would probably made it higher on the list. This is an S35VN steel, so really good high-end steel. 16 thousandths behind the edge, and it's at 0.10 blade stock. So very good slicer. I added the thumb studs. It didn't come with it. And currently, the only ones that I could find are the Knife Center exclusives with the denim micarta on both sides. It's not a frame lock, it's a liner lock. So that one's pretty awesome, I would think, and it's only 110 bucks. I think it's a good deal. They're just a dedicated front flipper, but I'm not a front flipper fan, so I added some thumb studs to it. Number 17, we have the Off-Grid Knives, a Cleaver V2. This one really blew me away whenever I was testing it. It's in D2 steel, comes in at around 16 thousandths behind the edge. And the D2 held up very well. Bestech's the OEM for it. It has excellent action, nice drop shot action, fires out hard, and this choke up position is really comfortable when going through, say, cardboard or whatever else you're going to be using. This blade shape is excellent for cardboard because it doesn't have any crazy belly to it. It has a very slight curvature to it, but for the most part, it's a straight edge, and it performed outstanding. If you hadn't seen this review, definitely go check it out. I've reviewed most of these knives that you'll see on this list. I would love to hear your favorite slicers down in the comment section. That way we can all get some ideas, especially if it's something I don't own, because I couldn't put everything on the list here. So let's go to number 16. We have the Kershaw Random Leek, and this one is not super thin behind the edge. It's at 20 thousandths, but you have very nice and thin blade stock at 0.09. I think that's thinner than a bug out. And you have a nice hollow grind on here. It's in 14Z 28N steel, so another excellent choice for the money. It is assisted. I'm not the biggest assisted fan, but I cannot deny how well this thing slices. Steel frame lock, Ken Onion design, and I'm so glad they came back out with the Random Leek. The other Leek, I tend to break off the tips on them rather often. So excellent knife for the money, especially if you're looking for a good slicer with that nice deep hollow grind on it. Number 15, we have the Ferrum Forge Stinger. This particular one's a titanium version, but I recommend the G10 one just because of the price tag. The G10 one's $90. This one's $175. Definitely, I think it's overpriced, but what you get here is Nitro V steel, which is an excellent, teetering on the budget, going up a little bit depending on how it's heat treated. And they seem to do a pretty good job with it. Comes down to 16 thousandths behind the edge, and you have 0.11 blade stock, so it's not super thick blade stock. Nice and comfortable. Excellent EDC because it's very thin, lightweight, especially the G10 one. Action's really good, and you can also Spidey flick it, which I love. You can choke up on it. Another, decent sized blade on this one. Definitely an excellent slicer and an excellent EDC, so I think it could make anybody happy, especially with the $90 G10 variation. Number 14, we have the Quiet Carry Waypoint, and this is another one that's not super thin behind the edges. I think it's around 20 thousandths, but you have very thin blade stock at 0.086, and it slices like a champ. And it's in Vanex Super Clean, which is an excellent, pretty much corrosion proof knife. Love the Waypoint. I love pretty much all quiet carry knives. I chose the Waypoint because it's got the longer edge bevel on it, so you have more cutting room. And the belly is not as abrupt as the drift. Even though my drift gets carried more, but this one, if I'm going to be breaking out a bunch of cardboard, this one would be the one I would grab. These are, I don't think these are currently in stock, or they might have the G10 one, but if not, another good one as far as blade stock goes is the Benchmade Bug Out with 0.10 blade stock. And it's not, like I said, not the thinnest, but the thin blade stock allows it to slice very well. This is the M4 Smoky Mountain Knife Works exclusive with the G10 contoured scales. Love this knife. Number 13, we have the Kubey knives Momentum. This knife keeps surprising me more and more the more I use it. It comes in at 15 thousandths behind the edge, and even though the blade stock thickness isn't super thin, it is decently thin. But being that it comes down to a nice thin edge, it slices very well. It would have made it higher on the list, but it's not the best suited for cardboard unless you stay in about that much of the cutting edge, because once you get to about right there, the natural arc of your hand is going to start pulling that blade out of the cardboard, and it's going to slide out. But D2 steel, I think for the price, it's hard not to have it on the list. It's like 32 bucks. One of the smoothest Kubeys I've ever handled, and even though I'm not a front flipper fan, it works just fine. Drops shut, but I love the fact that they have some thumb studs on it. That is a Kubey Knives Momentum. Number 12, we have the KIZER Roach Mini, and this one would have definitely made it much higher on the list. However, it has such a small, sharp cutting edge on there, but it has a nice deep hollow ground blade of 154 cm steel coming down to 14 thousandths behind the edge. So this thing is a slicing machine, and you can also choke up. Yeah, like I said, definitely if it would have had a little bit more blade length, it would have made it much higher on the list. But as it stands, it is an awesome slicer, and I think it would make an excellent EDC knife. Number 11, we have the Sencut Honoris. This one is probably my favorite Sencut to date. Super comfortable, nice and thin grind, comes down to 14 thousandths behind the edge. Decently thin blade stock, very fidgety with that long opening hole. Comes out very nice and snappy. And this one would have made it above the next one, but I'll tell you why. The blade shape is pretty good for cardboard because the belly's not super deep there. You get a good about that much of the blade until your hand starts sliding out of the cardboard. But excellent slicer. It's 9CR, 18 MOV, and Sencut does a pretty darn good job with their budget steels, as far as I have noticed with the testing I've done with a whole bunch of them. Good price. I think it's like 46 bucks for this knife, and this will definitely make it on my top 10 favorite knives for 2022. Number 10, we have another Sencut, and that is the Sencut Bronte. The only reason this one beat out the Honoris is because this blade shape, in my opinion, is just more conducive to cutting cardboard, because you have a fairly straight edge. It has a little slight belly to it. It's got that CX style blade shape. Another, just a simple broomstick style handle, 9CR, 13 MOV steel. Now, the only issue with this one for me is the action's kind of finicky on mine for some reason. Look, it just every once in a while, something's causing it to pinch. I don't know what it is. Easy to front flip, and those fullers, you can easily Spidey flick it as well. Definitely slices really, really well with that high flat grind coming down to 14 thousandths behind the edge. And another one that I think you can get for like 46 bucks. Definitely a good cardboard destroyer here. Number 9, we have the Kansept Korvid XL. Now, I did not expect this one to make it on the list. However, it has a very, very high flat grind on this cleaver shaped blade, and you can see how thin this thing comes down. I have sharpened this, and even after I sharpened it, it comes down to 16 thousandths behind the edge. 154 cm steel. This choke up spot is excellent for going through cardboard. Now, you do have belly to it, but it's not, you know, super abrupt there, so it stays in the cardboard pretty darn well. And after I sharpen this thing breezes through cardboard. Excellent action on them. It's a beast of a knife. Not going to be an excellent EDC knife because it's kind of weighty, and it is an extreme pocket hog, nice and wide in this direction. But if you need to break down a bunch of boxes, excellent choice here. The rest of the knives on this list, slice outstanding, and you could have swapped a lot of them around. But number 8, we have the QSP Hawk. I think this is a sleeper in the community. Just don't hear a lot of people talking about it. They recently came out with a 14C 28N version. This is the S35 VN with wood. And this thing is ground. I was super shocked to see, because a lot of the QSP knives are around 20 thousandths or greater. And this one comes down to 15 thousandths behind the edge. Now, it has a very, very small edge bevel there. So it's probably at around 20 to 22 degrees per side. But even after I sharpen it, it'll still be nice and thin. It slices very, very well. You do have a good bit of belly here, so you have about that much cutting room before it starts to slide out. Excellent slicer. I need to pick up one of the 14C models to see if it's ground nice and thin like this one. Number 7, we have the KIZER Sheepdog. This is 154 cm. Nice high flat grind on this cleaver shaped blade. Comes down to 15 thousandths behind the edge. And this thing rips through cardboard. You can choke up if you like. And even back here, it goes through so nicely. I did not realize how thinly ground these were. And now that I've found out, I own several. I own this one and the 10V large one, and then 2 of the small ones. Now, I will say the mini Sheepdog is pretty thick behind the edge. It's a smaller blade. I wish they would have made it thin like this one, because it doesn't slice half as well as the large. It still does just fine as long as you keep that nice sharp edge. And that's something else I want to talk about. As long as you have a nice sharp knife, it's going to slice very well through cardboard, no matter how thick it, I mean, you know, as long as it's not like 30 thousandths behind the edge. But when you have these thinly ground knives, whenever they start to go dull, they still go through the cardboard like they're sharp. Especially when you get down to like the 10 thousandths behind the edge. Those things feel like they remain sharp forever, just because of how thin that metal is going through the cardboard. Number 6, we have the Kansept Bulldozer. This is another one that surprised me. I reviewed this one not too long ago. This is the 20CV version with the titanium scales and the Damascus pivot collar and pocket clip. This thing slices awesome. The blade shape is excellent for cardboard. and EDC task because you don't have, you know, crazy belly. Now you do have a good bit of belly, but I didn't have any problem sliding out. You got that full flat ground blade, comes down to around 16 thousandths behind the edge. And that 20 CV held up very well. Very smooth action. It is a dedicated front flipper. I would have loved to see this one with a thumb stud on it. I think it would have been outstanding. I might just have to put one. Number 5, we have the Civivi Chevalier, however you say it. This thing is awesome when it comes to breaking down cardboard boxes because of that blade shape. Outstanding sheep's foot blade. It's in 14C 28N steel. I love 14C. It's super easy to sharpen. It responds well to stropping, and you can get a ridiculous sharp edge on it. Nice stone wash finish on it. Only thing I wish they would have made the fullers a little bit bigger or a little bit sharper because I have problems trying to reliably spidey flick it, just as long as I'm paying attention to what I'm doing. But you got a nice long blade here. That's why it made it higher on the list. This one comes down to, I think it's, yeah, around 15 thousandths behind the edge, and I have sharpened it nice and sharp. That is a Civivi Chevalier. Number 4, we have the TRM Atom. This thing slices so very nice because of the nice and thin blade stock here. It's at 0.09. And it's about 20 thousandths behind the edge, but like I said, once again, that thin blade stock allows it to pass through that cardboard very nicely. You have a nice full-size blade of 20 CV blade steel, made in the great US of A. These are a little difficult to get because they sell out so fast for good reason. So I decided to throw in an alternative. Here we have the drop. This was when it was mass drop, but they're sold by another company now. And this is another Ray Laconico design. Comes down to about 16 thousandths behind the edge and slices very well. S35 VN steel on this, titanium frame lock. Number 3, we have the button lock Elementum. I grab this so very often whenever I'm breaking down boxes. It's got a very nice size blade on it. Nice deep hollow ground blade. Comes down to 15 thousandths behind the edge. And it's in 14C 28N. Just ridiculous when it comes to the sharpness. Nice sharpening choil here. If they made this thing a thumb stud deployer, I would buy 3 of them. I asked them about it. They said they don't have any. They're not planning on making a thumb stud at this time. So maybe if a bunch of us ask them, maybe we shall get it. I just love the blade shape. Very comfortable in hand. Nice thin, lightweight EDC. Man, I'm not a huge fan of the button deployer on there, but when it comes to breaking down cardboard or I just want a nice super slicer, this is one I grab very often. $64 is kind of hard to beat. Number 2, we have the KIZER Begleiter XL. This was a White Mountain Knives exclusive. I can't wait till they get these back in stock so more y'all can experience them. It's high on the list because it's got a nice size 4-inch blade there. Almost a full flat ground blade of 154 cm steel. Comes down to 15 thousandths behind the edge. Very comfortable, very smooth action. You have a lot of cutting edge to doll up before you have to resharpen there. So excellent knife. I think these are like $89. I think for that price, it's very hard to beat, especially with these nice micarta scales. But being that these are out of stock, a good alternative would be the Spyderco Endura 4. This is a ZDP 189 version, but the K390 version, probably a little bit easier to get, is also exceptional. But awesome knives. Definitely excellent slicers with that full flat ground blade and decently thin tapered blade stock there. Now for my number 1 cardboard destroyer, the knife I grab so often, and that is the Spyderco Police 4. I mean, come on. This thing is over a 4-inch blade. Decently thin blade stock. It may even be thin. Let's see something. Is it thinner? It's probably the same stock as the Endura. Maybe, I don't know. It's either the same or slightly thinner. I'm not sure, but that's in Bowler K390, one of my favorite edge retention steels. It will patina on you. I don't really care about that. This thing right here is just astonishing how well it slices. My particular knife comes in at around 14 to 15 thousandths behind the edge, and this one sharpened from factory was 14 degrees on one side, and I think the other side was 18 degrees. I'd have to check my sharpening log, but that's what I think I remember. You can choke up on it, nice and lightweight, easy to carry, huge knife. It's over 10 inches long, nice and smooth action. I mean, I carried this so often, especially now that I've got it sharpened back up. K390 takes a stupid toothy edge on here. I mean, I'm not going to do the 3-finger test because I cut myself every time. So there you go. That's my top 20 cardboard destroyers. I do have some other good ones, but they're either custom knives or hard discontinued knives. So that's what's on my list. I'd love to hear some of your favorite slicers when it comes to breaking down cardboard boxes and doubling as EDC blades as well. All right, guys and girls, I hope everybody's having an absolute amazing day. I will see y'all on the next one. Peace.